Good morning. Welcome to Buddhist Temple of Toledo. Please have a seat. Am I missing something? Sorry. Okay, we're good. All right, please have a seat. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Nikaya 3 Refuges. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. I take refuge in Sangha. The 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. Mahayana Refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers. For the lineage of teachers before them, I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and awakened awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened, and may their vows be completely realized. I bow down in body, speech, and mind. I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit for the sake of all beings. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred. Being close to some and distant from others, how wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this. Our reading for today is the Bodhisattva vows. No. Like I said, the Bodhisattva Sutra, which is page. Does it have another name?
What is that one? It's best to bow down.
Just pick one, Jimmy.
I can do.
Okay, yeah, I was right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I Didn't know what the first one I went to was.
The Tory Gantry.
Apologies, I'm not finding it. Yep. Okay. Please stand for the Heart Sutra. Great Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, practicing deep prajna paramita, clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness exactly form. Sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are essentially empty, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no seeing, and so on to no thinking, no ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance, and so on to no old age and death, and also no ending of old age and death, no suffering, cause of suffering, cessation, path, no wisdom, and no attainment. Since there is nothing to attain, the Bodhisattva lives by prajna paramita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, and therefore no fear, far beyond elusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future live by prajna paramita, attaining Anyuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that prajna paramita is the great sacred mantra, the great vivid mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not mere formality. Therefore set forth the prajna paramita mantra. Set forth this mantra and proclaim gate gate para gate parasam gate bodhisvaha gate gate para gate parasam gate bodhisvaha gate gate para gate parasam gate bodhisvaha. Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. All that is and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We offer this sincere and devoted practice for the many beings of the 6 worlds and dedicated in grateful thanks to the strength and sound practice of the great Heartland Sangha and its teachers. May our virtuous actions be clear from all interferences, and may our vows be fully realized. We especially dedicate these merits to Sister Suzette, Jeanette, Sarah, and Paulette, as well as those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts and those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Maha Prajna Paramita. Again, thank you everyone for joining us here at the Buddhist Temple of Toledo. Please prepare for Zazen. Please prepare for Kinhin. At the sound of the clappers, the first and third rows will turn to their right, the second and fourth rows will turn to their left. We, the Daikishin Kokuji Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the wisdom and compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts of doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others. Please be seated for this afternoon's talk. Sit comfortably and face towards our teacher. Gata on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
So thank you, everyone, for being here. So many interesting things happening today. So I gave you that shot because usually you wait until the teacher brings their hands up into Gasho and then you start. No, that's good. And the reason why you do that, for anyone who's in that position, is that the teacher's got some mojo going on, and they have to kind of wait for the right time to launch. So we had a bit of a premature launch, but we're gonna we're gonna handle it. And then part 2. So this is really interesting, right? I am to blame for the mess up with the reading because the dutiful person who was supposed to do their job asked me, what is the reading today? And out of my sort of fog of oh, I know what it is, I said, oh, the Bodhisattva vows. So she dutifully went over to the and said the Bodhisattva vows. And then he looks at me and says, wait, we don't do the Bodhisattva vows now, we do them at the end, right? So there was that whole fumble, and Shokai kind of read my mind somehow. But by that time, we had so sort of skidded around and skidded out. It was we needed Roshi to kind of pull us back to center, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is such a perfect example of how a temple and a religious growth dojo works, right? We're all sort of taking care of each other, and there's somebody at the top who's kind of got that bird's eye view and can kind of gather us back together again when we start to just sort of like fly off in all directions. So, deep bows to Roshi for just being so steadfast in that. I mean, he just is like, he's like a metronome. He's so reliable. And in a world where there is such an erosion of trust in leaders, we are so extraordinarily lucky to have Rinsen here, really keeping us going in the right direction. So, okay, let's read that reading that we missed, shall we? So it's called The Universal Gateway of Kanzeon Bodhisattva. When living beings suffer hardships, burdened by immeasurable woes, the power of Kanzeon's wondrous wisdom can relieve the suffering of the world. Fully endowed with miraculous powers, widely practicing wisdom and skillful means, in every land, in all directions, in no realm does Kanzeon not appear. In all the various dark births of hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals, the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death, all are gradually erased by Kanzeon, whose true regard, serene regard, far-reaching wise regard, whose regard with compassion and loving kindness is ever longed for, ever revered. Unblemished, serene radiance, benevolent sun, dispelling all gloom, Kanzeon can subdue the wind and fire of woes, clearly illuminating all the world. The precepts of compassion roar like thunder. The kind heart is wondrous as great clouds, pouring Dharma rain of sweet dew, quenching all flames of troubling passion. In each thought, with never a doubt, Kanzeon, the pure sage in pain, agony, or death's distress, can provide a sure support, fully endowed with all virtues. Eyes of compassion behold all beings, assembling a boundless ocean of happiness. Thus, with reverence, we bow in prostration. So it's quite moving and quite beautiful. And we have several members of the Sangha right now and friends of the Sangha who are struggling with some very severe and dire health conditions. So dedicating this particular reading to them. And also as a segue into our talk today, because this total trust, this total magnificent cutting through any obstacle kind of feeling that we get with Kanzeon, this is what we're practicing. This is what we are trying to realize in our life. We are trying to access somehow this incredible, powerful, beyond life and death, beyond coming and going. This is our work. And please don't think you're doing anything short of that. And I think this reading that we're going to look at a koan today points us in that direction. So this is from the Blue Cliff Record, and I had forgotten about this little artifact, but it's kind of a fun fact about the Blue Cliff Record. It was super, super popular in China, and it was actually compiled by Setcho. Not our Setcho, but the other Setcho, the Chinese Setcho. But he's in good company. It's sort of nice, if you have a Dharma name, to sort of look back and see, well, am I named after some cool ancestor, or, am I the original, right? So anyway, Setcho compiled this, and it was, then there were a couple of different teachers that added on these really beautiful poems and introductions, and it was really this quite amazing, very erudite text that was floating around the China, and especially around educational institutions and monasteries, and it got very, very popular. Of course, as soon as something gets very, very popular, what does the Zen master do? Well, this Zen master took the wood blocks and burned them. Because he didn't want people to rely on all the pretties and all of the, he said that there was too much explanation going on, that it had been annotated too much, that people were being robbed of their power to be able to see things for themselves. So, and then part two of that, of course, is as soon as something gets burned, somebody somewhere has the last copy, right? So there was another monk who had the last copy, but apparently it wasn't complete. So when they reprinted the Blue Cliff Record, there were some parts left out. And this particular case has its introduction left out, which is kind of interesting, right? Anyway, so this is case 34, the Five Elders' Peak. Gyozan asked a monk, "Where have you come from?" The monk said, "Kaddish Mountain." Gyozan said, "Did you visit Five Elders' Peak?" The monk said, "I never got there." Gyozan said, "You never traveled the mountain." Wah! Unman remarked, "This talk was all a conversation in the weeds for the sake of compassion." So, this visiting of Five Elders' Peak, I'm sort of thinking about that a lot because I'm getting ready to do the scroll, and we've had it cooking up on the altar, and then there's all of these books that I need to write, and it's very interesting because it's not like I say to Renson, "Okay, I'm ready, where's the book?" Right? I mean, a couple of times I've said, "Oh, I think I'm ready. I'll need the book sometime." And then he's like, okay, yeah. And what I recognize right away is that this book is freely given, right? And if I'm hucking him all the time for the book, where's my book? Where's my book? I need to start. I won't have enough time, right? Which I am a little worried that I won't have enough time, but I think I can do it. So there's something very sort of hat in hand humbling about this process. And I would say pretty much all along, it's a hat in hand humbling process, right? So let's look at the case a little bit. By the way, I still don't have the book. Interesting. Yes. Yeah. Oh no, I'm not. What do you do? What do you do? How do you proceed? Okay, all right, let's see. Let's at least get to the case. We can put our foot on a rock somewhere. Okay, Gyozan asked a monk, where have you just come from? So, of course, when a Zen master asks you, where are you from, right? You know it's not just an ordinary question. And the reason why it's not just like an ordinary question is precisely because of this reading that we just did. We are not in the realm of ordinary. We are here to realize our superordinary perception, our Buddha nature. Okay, here we go. All right. And all the mistakes and all the fumbling around is completely not separate from that. And this is probably the first and most fundamental thing we have to kind of get in the bones and in the marrow of our practice. Because where have you come from, interestingly enough, is the teacher saying, show me your heart mind. Where have you come from, right? What is your, almost like, show me your karmic position, right? Very interesting. We had a seminar with Shinyu the other day in the seminary, and he was saying, you know, once you sort of relax a little bit, scientists have figured out that there's this sort of like baseline mind murmur that we all know and love so dearly when we're sitting on the cushion. And this baseline mind murmur is essentially where we think we come from. Isn't that beautiful? Right? So this baseline mind murmur is where we think we come from. And sometimes, you know, of course, you can say, Imogene or your house or whatever. But the true mountain that the monk speaks of is this mountain in our own mind. And it's not just the mind. Remember, it's in Eastern Asian language, they don't separate out the heart and the mind. It's one. So the teacher asked the monk, where have you just come from? And the monk said, Cottage Mountain. So, okay. You know, that's sort of a statement of fact. But when he's saying Cottage Mountain, the teacher is reading the whole energetic quality of that statement, right? And really probing to see. So, how is this business of climbing the murmur of the mind? This Mount Everest of the murmur of the mind. You know, interestingly, I just read something, it was actually a review of a book. It's this sort of sad tale, but interesting tale. So, you know, people, they have these trekkers, they love to climb mountains, right? Definitely not one of my vacation choices, if there ever was one. But there's this lovely, beautiful, beautiful young man from America, and he went to the Himalayas, And apparently there's this place called the Bermuda Triangle of the Himalayas. And being like a young, strong buck kind of guy, and also on a spiritual quest to scale a sacred mountain, he decided he was going to go visit some sacred shrine in this Bermuda's Triangle of the Himalayas. And he found himself a sadhu, which is this sort of like guru type of teacher. And I guess they hang around all around the foothills of the Himalayas, you know, trying to find maybe some cash out of one of the one of the mountaineers or whatever, or maybe, you know, see if the mountaineer will use them as a guide. Or so this poor, unfortunate hiker chose the wrong sadhu. And he went with him up into the mountains. And of course, he's feeling quite sprightly, so he brings, like, you know, a can of tuna fish and some nuts for like 3 months or something like that, right? So you know where this is going. Of course, he hasn't been found because he's in that Bermuda Triangle of the Himalayas. And they found the sadhu, and they arrested the sadhu, and then the sadhu committed suicide in the prison. So I tell this story because there is this sort of wonderful kind of pilgrimage vibe to Buddhist practice. And going to sacred places is really, really cool, for no doubt. But the real, true sacred mountain is this murmur of the magic mountain in our own heart-mind. This is what we're doing. And I think sometimes, like, you know, we're a little bit more like Emily Dickinson of Buddhism here. Right? We're not going off in these wild excursions. And, you know, interestingly enough, when I was an undergraduate, I lived down the street from her house in Amherst. Yeah, with my friend Ellen. So anyway, you know the story about Emily Dickinson, that she basically lived in Amherst her whole life and hung around in her backyard with the bees and the birds, and wrote this incredible poetry, very, very haiku-like, mostly very short. And she would write, and I think she would just stuff it in her bureau or something. And I don't think she had very much notoriety in her life, but, you know, after she died, they just found these trunks and trunks of beautiful poetry that we have today. So I would say Emily Dickinson was a true mountaineer of this magic murmur of the heart-mind. And that's what we're doing here as well, sitting in our own backyard in Toledo. Some of us more than others sitting in their own backyard. Okay, so then the master says, Gyozan says, did you visit Five Elders Peak? So Five Elders Peak is like the highest point of Cottage Mountain. So I think the teacher already knows that the student, the monk, has some more climbing to do. No problem. Just needs more climbing. So he's probing a little bit. Did you visit Five Elders Peak? So Five Elders Peak, of course, is like the summit of the mountain, right? So this is where you're like walking on the clouds, right? I think now, today, that we don't really appreciate how amazing that was to be on the summit of mountains, because, you know, we can just get in a plane and we're like through the clouds and into the clear blue sky, and it's really not that big a deal, right? But if you've never been on a plane, if you've never been up that high, when you get to the peak of that mountain, it's like, oh, and it still is, when you get to the peak of the mountain, right? It's still awesome. There's also the thing that is important, I think, for us to really kind of feel in the marrow is this peak of the mountain is on top of the clouds. So that clear blue sky, that luminosity, that non-obstruction. He's asking the monk, are you experienced in the non-obstruction of the murmur of your mind? This is actually what he's asking the monk. And the monk says, I never got there. This to me is beautiful. I love this. This is like perfect because the monk is being so honest. And what the monk doesn't realize is that him saying, I never got there, is in fact already there. And that's our work. That's our work, to just totally get so intimate with the truth of Kanzeon that we recognize no matter what seems to be an obstacle is actually boundless and free, at peace. When we say samsara is nirvana, this is what we're talking about. Now, Gyozan said, you never traveled the mountain. This is a really compassionate, wonderful response to him. Look, dude, you haven't done it yet. You think you might have done it, but you haven't really done it. There's so much more to see. There's more to climb, right? And I have to say, more and more as the Dharma gets sort of caught in the web of the marketplace, the less that we really appreciate that peak. And we are here to preserve the trek all the way to the peak. Each one of us is doing that work. And nothing less will be accepted. Because if we don't do that work, if we don't find the place of boundless freedom in every moment, then how can we do our work as kanon? How can we give that to others? How can we allow others to express and embody their Buddha nature? So you never travel to the mountain. Best to bow down when you hear that. And God knows I've heard it a lot, and I'm still hearing it, right? But not to be afraid of that, not to cower from that, not to get arrogant and hostile about that, but to simply bow. Because the hearing of those words, the speaking of those words, and the bowing because of those words are all the elders, 5 elders' peak. Unman remarked, this talk was all a conversation in the weeds for the sake of compassion. So a lot of people say, oh, conversation in the weeds. It's like, oh, he went down into the muck to, meet this monk where he was. Sometimes people say the weeds are just the ordinary perception. And fair enough, the ordinary perception is also extraordinary perception at the same time. I guess we should love the weeds as much as we love the peak. That's the thing. Actually, in the weeds, That's where we find the compassion. Because when we're in the weeds of our life, in the entanglements, we actually feel deeply what it means to be human. And we realize very quickly that everybody is in some version of these weeds. These weeds extend in all directions. Nobody escapes the weeds. Best to bow down to the weeds.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Bowing bell. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our service for today. Are there any announcements? I don't know if we have the other microphone or we can just pull this off. Oh, okay.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Aka. I just wanted to give a friendly reminder that this coming Saturday is a half-day Zazenkai. We are forgoing session for this instead because of COVID and those precautions. It is open to all members that are fully vaccinated. So I strongly encourage everyone who is at all interested in session to come dip your toe in with us from 9 to 12 this coming Saturday. It'll be a great experience to just kind of get friendly with the whole thing. So come, yes.
What exactly happens?
It's like sitting and kinhen, and then there's a mando that starts at 11. So there'll be a talk and then a closing. So it's a little tiny zazenkai. So it's sitting in kinhen, walking meditation. Yes. Nope, no meals, no dokusan, just sitting and kinhen. So again, it's kind of like a taste of it. So come, don't be afraid.
For anyone that can't physically be here, any distant member can attend via Zoom link, and we'll actually have a chance during Mondo to ask questions of the teachers interactively. So it's going to be our second time really integrating into the space, people physically here and people electronically here. So sure to be fun.
Hi. This is something that just occurred to me yesterday, and so it's in its infancy. But the grand opening is coming up on, I think, April 23rd, and there are a number of Sangha members from far away who are planning on attending, and one of them contacted me and said, "Can I stay with you?" And I thought, oh, I'll bet other people are in this boat. So I'm not making a project out of it right now. I haven't thought it through, but if anyone is interested and feels comfortable with maybe doing that, we can facilitate a connection. If people are listening from out of town and you're thinking, I need a place to stay, maybe say something on the members page and we can work something out. So.
Shokai, could you talk a little bit about the Jakai, pursuing Jakai program?
Frantically thinking about it now. So I think on February 22nd, we have our kind of, if you're even mildly interested in Jukai, or you're definitely interested in Jukai, please attend. I believe it's online. What is, oh God. So where you would formally become a Buddhist, where you take the precepts and you sew one of these wonderful robes. And all will become clear if you attend that Tuesday night session on February 22nd.
If there are no other announcements, please restore the Zendo. Thank you.
So what happens at the end? I have no idea. This is the second time I did it Sunday.
As soon as I'm done with the vows.
So even before that, so I know I wait for the teacher that we get